a Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone. Welcome to another in our podcast series where we chat to guys who work in the fundraising sector about their love of running and their love of fundraising. And today we're delighted to welcome Mikey from North Wales, who has just done his first 10K and his first fundraising event, which is brilliant. So Mikey, welcome, and tell us why you embarked on your running journey in this way.
Hi Tim, I work for Shelter Cymru as their regional fundraiser for North Wales, and I decided to run a 10K, the Wrexham 10K this year, because for me it was really important to keep fit in the winter because a lot of my activities are summer based, and more importantly I wanted to understand kind of the stewardship from being a runner and the experience of what people go through when they're fundraising in running events, because as part of my role, we steward a lot of runners in various events, but I've never really understood the challenge. It's just kind of like we ask them if they're okay and how can we help, but I really wanted to see it from an actual fundraising myself perspective. So that's kind of the main two reasons I got into it.
This was your first running event. What about your running experiences up to this point then?
Well, they were non-existent. I'll be honest. You're going back to school where I probably did like sports day and stuff. So for me, it was actually quite a daunting challenge thinking, oh, I've actually got to start training. I've got to buy some running trainers and I've also got to fundraise. So yeah, it got the blood flowing. I must admit, I didn't enjoy it at first. My technique was all wrong with the running. But what I really did enjoy was the fundraising element. I must admit, like I enjoyed thinking about ways and ideas that you can connect with your audience and, introduce them to the charity and what you're doing. That was really exciting. And then as the weeks went by, I actually started to enjoy the running a bit. It calms your mind. You feel great. You do get the runner's high afterwards. And I felt very energetic, weirdly, as well. It kind of increased my energy levels, even though it was dark outside in the morning. So there's a lot of benefits I didn't realize you could get from, running along a track. It's great.
And how long was your training program?
So I decided to do the Rex 10K about 3.5 weeks before the event. Yeah, it was about 3 weeks, and I was running every other day. And I'd start with like 1 or 2 miles, and have a rest day, and then I'd take it up to about 3 or 4. And then by about week 2, I was just doing like about 5K every other day. And it felt about right. I had stiff calves at times, but I didn't actually run 10K. I think the longest I did was 7K in total, just due to the time. And it was really good to just kind of be outside, hear the birds, see different things, and have a bit of peace from the busy family life as well. So yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah, so obviously that's not the standard sort of 10K training program approach. You obviously had some great underlying fitness there, because you'd expect the 10K training to be quite a bit longer than that.
Okay.
And you're right. You don't run the full 10K in training. Sort of 7-8K is probably what would be recommended. But yeah, if you're starting from absolute scratch, then you would probably be looking at sort of 10 to 12 weeks as a standard program. So you've done a very truncated one. You did incredibly well to do it in that kind of timing, because the last week or so, last 10 days on a 10K would be the sort of taper period where you don't do a lot. It sounds like you were probably running right up until race day, were you?
I was just, let's get it done. And you know what? It went really well on the day as well. I think I got a time of 53 minutes, which I was really chuffed with. I feel like I set off a bit faster, as you do, because there were so many other runners, and I should have done like a park run or something and familiarized myself with running with people, because I probably did what everyone did in their first run and just got excited by the sheer amount of people. It was a great event, by the way. Like Adrenaline Sports did a fantastic event. So yeah, I loved it.
Were you nervous on race morning?
Yeah, very. Yeah, just I feel like because you've fundraised, and I think think we did I did about £640 on race day morning, and I was like, oh, I can't let my supporters down, although they totally understand, and I get that as being a fundraiser. People get injured, people get ill, things happen. But I still felt that kind of pressure from people who have contributed, engaged with your posts on social media, stuff like that. You kind of want to celebrate your success with them, and I must admit, it was two-edged story because it kept me going, but it also made me nervous, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally does. Totally does. So how did you feel when you finished and when you were over there? Your first ever finish line, what was that moment like?
Buzzing, yeah. Like my son and my wife were there to say congratulations, and I just loved it. Like the after feeling, I was like had a massive steak afterwards, and I think I had a nap on the sofa. But yeah, it was a real adrenaline high, and yeah, I'd really recommend it to anyone who hasn't done a run before. It's a great feeling, to be fair, and I can see why people really, really get into it, and almost become addicted to running events, because it's not just like running around a park or a lake. It's the occasion and the people at the end clapping and cheering you on. It really adds to the kind of overall vibe. Yeah, it's
Mm.
great.
So did that course go sort of through the centre of Wrexham?
Yeah, so it's one of the hillier ones apparently, and if you know Wrexham, there's this Irvig, which is like a country park. There's a quite a big downhill, but when you get a downhill, you're going to have a big uphill. And it's on about the 8K. Like, so you're in the zone, you're hurting, and then this huge hill. I mean, it's sustained. It's got to be like 300-400 meters of about 14 degrees, maybe something incline, and there's people cramping up on it. There's people on the ground. It was like a war scene, and yeah, that was pretty tricky, but it was beautiful because it's all country lanes. It's a lovely run. You do take in a lot of lovely scenery. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And you finish in the town centre as well, which I think was epic. Getting to run through all the streets and it's all cordoned off.
Yeah,
That was
yeah, it's
good.
good. It's good. It's good feeling that when you're running through places that you normally can't run through.
Yeah, for sure.
So you had a truncated training period, but that obviously means that you had a very limited time to do your fundraising. And you said earlier that you pretty much got going as soon as you
Yeah.
decided you wanted to do the race. It really helped your motivation, presumably, knowing that you were going to be doing this for charity.
Definitely. So the running was a separate entity, but also using my experience of being a first timer and developing my running in videos and sharing on social media like LinkedIn, um, all like Facebook. It was really important because I found, yeah, I would have liked a bit longer to fundraise, but then that's a good question. How long do you start fundraising before? We don't want to fundraise too early. But I felt with 3 weeks, it created quite a nice intensity for my supporters. And I really wanted to kind of look at different ways and see what I've learned in the past through fundraising and basically other runners who've absolutely smashed it. So I thought, as well as the engagement videos, the honest videos, I'm struggling, guys, and you're sweaty and stuff. I think people really loved that, once a week, twice a week. They felt like they were part of a story. But then also other ways as well. So like I mentioned earlier, corporate sponsorship was something. So if you've got any connections with local companies, big or small, for 10K, I felt like the badge of I've got a friend who's the ops manager for CLM Transport, and we came to a little deal where it's like, I'll wear your badge in my training videos and on the day on my t-shirt, branded Shelter Cymru t-shirt. If you give me £100, I'll give the charity £100. And he was like, yeah, of course. I think I went in a bit cheap, to be fair, but learning, isn't it? And it was easy £100, and to be honest with you, they started sharing it as well. So I had a bigger audience because more people were invested. And it was just learning little tips like that. It was like tagging the event organizers in your stories on Instagram because they were reposting you utilizing different audiences. And this is stuff that, I know as a fundraiser that we can do, but doing it yourself and seeing how well it worked with attraction personally, I think really made me think about the importance of stewardship. in fundraising, and that's one of the biggest pluses of doing this whole journey, was seeing the importance of charity stewardship for individual runners, because it really makes you go that extra mile. If if you get in help and understanding of ways that you can fundraise, which don't require a lot of work but have got a good return on investment, it really motivates you to do more. So I must admit, I preferred the fundraising element to the run.
Now, I think, for you, it's fantastic because you've obviously learned a huge amount in a very short period of time that you'll be able to pass on to runners that you are looking after on their fundraising and running journey. But I think, you raised a really interesting one there that we've not talked about before on these podcasts, was the interaction with events. Now, obviously, if you tag in the London Marathon organisers, they're not going to repost your post. But the beauty of running a smaller event like this one is that, and an event where, to be honest, not a massive amount of people will be fundraising, this is a real advantage and something that you've obviously done very well there, because the fact that they've reposted it means that you've got traction that a lot of other fundraisers won't be able to get. So just because you're doing a smaller event, don't think that actually isn't a benefit. It is a benefit, because you'll be one of very few people, whereas London Marathon, 70, 80% of people will be fundraising, tens of thousands of people. So the event isn't going to be able to give individual attention to fundraising runners. But in this instance, the fact you've tagged them in is great, and it gives them a story, doesn't it?
Definitely. They want content just as much as we want to be visible to enable our fundraising. So it's a win-win. And you're so right. Like, I didn't even realize that, but there is something that can benefit from doing small events. You can get more exposure from local companies who they understand that you've probably got more of a local presence, say in Wrexham. I know lots of people, so they might be, or you might know lots of people in your area. So go offer them an opportunity to share their brand for a great cause. And there's just little things like that. But I must admit, like, we're so lucky to be in an era where we can advertise what we're doing for free on platforms on social media, and not just your archetypal Facebook, Instagram, but like LinkedIn was really useful, because these are kind of people who are going on there for their networks, not so much social, but to see they've got a network of similar people, similar industries. Sharing videos on there was a really interesting way to create, not only donations, but just gain support for what you're doing.
So talk me through how you went about your LinkedIn plan then.
So it kind of mirrored what I was doing on my Instagram stories, where I was doing these really basic 10-second videos twice a week of, oh, I'm on a run, I'm taking it in, look at this beautiful thing I've never seen before, in your locality. And then the next run would be like, stretched out a bit, it's raining today, but we're out. Do you know what I mean? And it was just honest opinions of like what you're going through, and like, oh, my calf's hurting today. Turns out I've been running wrong, but someone on the walk helped me because it's I was running wrong. Like, it was just sharing those kind of day in the life moments of your progress. And there was no, like, to be honest, I asked once or twice, like, if you want to donate, use the link below. But most of the time, it wasn't about the direct ask of please sponsor me. It was more just, this is what I'm doing. And I feel like that's something I learned as well. And it was visible. If I asked for money directly via a picture, wouldn't get anything. But if I put a funny video on, just saying what I was doing, you'd get donations as a result. So I learned, and that's something I want to pass on to our supporters if they're doing such events, is make it less direct. Just make content you're putting out interesting and funny, and a story, and it can be emotional or whatever you choose, but people will, I think, be more attracted to that rather than please give me some money, bye. You know what I mean?
That's really interesting. So you still had a link in your post, but you just didn't really talk about it.
No, and to be honest with you, like, that was the key. It's just, I feel like, and I've noticed this a lot recently, is is people tend to like engage more when it's not a direct ask, because I think people are so inundated with so many charities who are so good at fundraising. Like, I must admit, I've been in the world a few years of fundraising, but I've seen already that even small local charities are really sharp with their fundraising. But I've noticed the engagement goes down when it's a direct ask, like, please donate this cause. So it's all about creating interesting kind of stories. And I've noticed that people almost like want to choose whether to engage the charity now, not feel the ask. Because I get it all the time. I must admit, like, you see a Just Giving page go up kind of with an ask in the marathon season, like, all the time. And yeah, so I've learned a lot. And I think, yeah, what I'd like to pass on to people is just that the ways you can fundraise don't necessarily just have to be an ask. You can like do little events, like do a quiz night in your local pub, do a big sale if you're in like a work environment, in like an office or something. These things I've seen our supporters do really well.
So you raised nearly £650, which is
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. So just
Thanks.
break that down for me in terms of how that was made up. What came from social media? What came from other
Yeah.
activities?
So, like, I reckon, so there was £100 to start from the corporate sponsorship, and then there was kind of your inner circle. So I'm talking my dad, my best friends. I'd say a circle of about 20 people. That probably made it for about another £150, which I expect. I don't expect, but I see that most people in society have probably got about £100 worth of inner circle. They'll donate to you because they have to. Do you know what I mean? So that's us on about 250. Then I'd say Facebook was really good in terms of you can share to multiple groups. Like Wrexham's got, like Wrexham Notice Board, Wrexham Town Matters, little Coy Poif Matters, my village, and then almost a wider audience can see it from there. So I'd say that was probably another £200. That takes us up to about 450. Then I'd say work colleagues was about another £50. So that takes us up to 500. But the rest, surprisingly, was probably like LinkedIn, which I was really surprised at. You can really cut through the noise on newer like platforms like LinkedIn, where there's less about a barbecue today. Look at my child's first day in school. Look at it's my birthday today. Happy birthday! All that. There's none of that. It's just kind of hear what we're doing for what we're passionate about. A lot of people put on what they're passionate about on LinkedIn, which I think is really interesting. It really had good engagement, and there was people who I'd see in my Just Giving where I was like, so just for example, who's Amy? I had to look and I was like, oh, right, they work for such a CIC in Wrexham. I didn't know. I didn't even know them. I just know them on LinkedIn. And so I think that's something I've learned as well is don't just go to your inner circles and your immediate supporter bubble on like Facebook, Instagram. Share it to little groups, what you're doing, especially if it's stories, video content. They have great interaction. Like your things like Wrexham Town Matters, they've got a 50,000 audience. And if you can get a post accepted for that, showing you're running for charity and you're being honest, I had about 20, 30 likes and I didn't know any of them. And then Mary, who's 80, took me a tenner, on a Saturday morning. And I'm like, right, that's working. If 5,000 people have seen that video, it's great awareness for the charity, because let's be honest, I'm of the opinion that it's not all about fundraising, it's about building awareness, and then opportunities arise for that from fundraising. So, all right, we raised £640, which I really was chuffed with and really thankful, but the awareness piece for me was the real success, like the new audiences we've reached out to and engaged with.
And the frustrating thing with that, Mikey, is of course that can never be measured, can it? And
No.
how many people you have told about the work of the charity
Mm-hmm.
through what you've done in a 3-week period is unbelievable. But you can never put a number on that, which is frustrating.
No, but I'd just like to add to that is real good leaders in the industry of fundraising, like Keris Shepherd, for example, they understand that visibility and awareness directly relate to income generation and opportunities. And it's just something, it's like you've got to have your rod in the water to catch a fish. And that's always what I think is if you're out there, you're being visible, things just happen, and it's just if you're hiding away and sending the odd email in fundraising and not sharing, being brave and sharing what you're doing, that's when you start to think, right, are we really engaging new audience? Or are we just relying on what we got? And like a charity like Shelter Cymru, it's really hard to fundraise for, because there's so many great charities. Every charity is great, but you do tend to have charities that almost have a bigger kind of pull. Like, for example, children's hospices, and hospice care, palliative care, cancer charities, things like that. It's really hard to compete, and not compete, but to gain, you know, someone in homelessness, for example. There's quite a bit of it's a hard thing because it's very private. It's kind of, people think that's never going to happen to them, and it's just trying to build awareness. It's almost makes it worth more. It's more worthwhile trying to fundraise for a harder pull of a charity like that. So yeah, that's another thing. Just you got to factor in as well is what's your cause, and how you can tailor your fundraising to capture that right audience. So
Yeah,
there's so much to think about.
yeah, there is a lot to think about, and you touched on it before, which was this sort of specialized or areas where you're passionate about. Now, Mikey didn't mention it. He touched on the art there. Mikey's a fantastic artist as well. So you did talk about your sort of special interest groups, let's call them that. You got involved a little bit with your fundraising with them, but not overly. Is that right? Whereas if you'd had, I'm just thinking, if you'd had sort of a target of 2,000, what would you have done differently? Would you have focused a little bit more on that community? Would you have done events?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm quite lucky with I've got 3,500 followers on my Facebook art page. And I think in total with the Instagram, I kind of use it for a bit of fundraising, a bit of art and a bit of personal. But my fundraising page for Facebook is solely art. And I didn't use it for this fundraising opportunity. I used my Mikey Jones Shelter Cymru Facebook page to share the stories, just to save diluting either page, But I think with something like London Marathon, where the ask was a bit bigger, I'd probably more directly reach out to that audience, maybe do a free giveaway, like a couple of prints, a couple of greens cards, and like a hamper art giveaway kind of thing. There's things like that, like I would have done more if I had to, but at the same time, it's knowing when to ask, isn't it? I had this conversation with a lady called Debbie, who's fundraising manager for Air Ambulance Wales on the weekend. We were talking about fundraising. The fundraising community share ideas, by the way. We don't just hide from each other. And we were talking about raffles, and we were like, when to use a raffle? Because this volunteer fair, there was a lot of raffles happening. There's a few people, but there was about 5 or 6 raffles from various charities happening. And I thought, is that a good use of, a bottle of wine and a couple of bottles of chockies? Or should I say it for next weekend when we've got our own captive audience, bigger audience, and we'll be the only people doing a raffle? It's knowing when to use your kind of equity, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think for something like the marathon, you go above and beyond. I'd probably organise, like you say, a quiz night and things like that. Go out for more corporate sponsorship. Don't just go out to one. Go out for a few. People are going to want to be seen, and ask for more. There's things like, you know what it's like. You can tier things for the event. Something like the London Marathon is huge, takes a different approach. But that's where I feel like, as a fundraiser, we need to educate our supporters who are getting on, doing that more personally. We can't just be sending them a kind of email, good luck, how's your fundraising going? I feel like we do need to give them quite, bespoke. If it's capacity based, obviously, because we are busy as fundraisers, but it'd be great if we could give them more bespoke kind of guidance. Like, ask them about what they do. So you're a solicitor. Oh, okay. Why don't you do this? Or, oh, so you work in a factory. Have you tried a sweepstake or something like that? Think about what your audience might want, that stuff like that. I just feel like, I know from understanding what you do in your industry, you're really aware of kind of the importance of the support journey. And I'd just like to echo that as a fundraiser. It's something we need to work on, every charity really.
Yeah, well, you certainly sound like you've had some great learnings from that one. And of course, from your next one, which is going to be what, Mikey? What's next for you?
Oh, I'm debating what to do, man. Like, yeah, it's going to be a half marathon. I don't know where. Like, I'm probably going to be needed on the ground in Cardiff. So Wrexham half, that's a new event, isn't it? So I'm debating that. I don't think I'm ready for a marathon yet, especially after you tell me about the training regime for a 10K, what it should be. The London Marathon, I think I need a year or two, do you know what I mean?
16 weeks for a marathon. Given your
Right.
base level of fitness, honestly, you would be absolutely fine. And given that you've saved a lot of your audience and like the art community, you've got some great opportunities. I've no doubt you would hit a London Marathon target. So maybe 27 if you can get an entry still, or 2028. That would be a great opportunity for you.
Yeah, there's a few charities offering them. It's just like it's just daunting. You know what it's like. Have you? I'm just anticipating. But have you run a few marathons, the full ones?
Yeah, I've done 73 marathons, and I've done London. I've done London 9 times, which has just been absolutely amazing. I've got it again next April. So
Fair
there's
play.
nothing like the excitement of a marathon, start and
Yeah.
finish.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling like you're saying go just straight for a marathon, but I don't know. We'll see.
There's loads of people that do. I can guarantee you there will be a huge percentage of the London Marathon field next year who will have never done a
Yeah.
running event before.
Like you
They
say,
their
it's a
training.
serious thing, isn't it? You've got to build it right to it, and yeah, and my problem is I am quite competitive. Like, I've got medals in front of me. Like, yeah, I once I get into something, I go full bang. And my wife's expecting, well, we're expecting a second child in January, January the 28th. So yeah, I've
Yeah,
got to
so
be on.
marathon training might not be the best plan if you've got that coming up.
Yeah,
Maybe the
I think,
following.
yeah, I think fitting in like a little cheeky 2028 plan or something might work.
Yeah, I
But
think
yeah,
that.
a half marathon would be quite cool. I'd quite like
Yeah,
to do that.
stuff. I'm sure whatever you do, you'll get some more fantastic learnings with your fundraising and pass that information on to all your runners. So I really, really appreciate you coming on. There's some great tips there, some great learnings, and I'm sure your runners will benefit hugely from your experience.
Oh, thanks. Well, thanks for having me, Tim.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.